more than you will ever know. So make sure you take the time to smash the like and subscribe button and leave a little review below as well. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know what you think about what we could do to improve, how we can help you make the show better, because after all, this show is for you. Welcome along, everyone. Ian Joy, James Benj, and Nigel reo-coker with you as we get set for a Premier League preview, a European action preview. We've got a lot to look forward to, a lot to discuss, some cracking fixtures, not only in the UK, but also in Germany, in France, and Italy. Let's begin with Italy. Qué Golazo begins right now. Welcome along, everybody. Ian Joy, Nigel reo-coker, and James Benj with you. We're looking forward to previewing the weekend's action all across Europe. There are some cracking games to look forward to. We're just getting done with the European fixtures right now. It's the first time we've gone live on a Thursday as we're about to preview the weekend. So make sure you share this link with your friends, your family members. Let your granny know that we're on live right now. Make sure that she likes and subscribe. And if you want to leave a comment below, please do so as well. James Benj, I'm just checking in with you, making sure you're feeling all right because of that shirt you're wearing.
It's new kit day, isn't it? We're celebrating these new kits. I'm wearing an Adidas Senegal concept jersey. So yeah, I am that unbearable guy that you see in East London.
James, that looks more like a picnic blanket, mate. I was about to say it's a picnic blanket you got on.
This has got good reviews before.
I thought it was Nigel reo-coker's wedding shirt when I first switched it on there for a split second. Nigel, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. It's great to look forward to some games this weekend and some big games. And hopefully, I know we're going to have some big opinions on these games, but no, we're good.
Yeah, we're certainly not shy of the banter. We're not shy on getting a comment or two from people on our social media platforms, but also on YouTube as well. So please, if you're enjoying the conversation, let us know in the comments what you think. What do you think about Nigel if he has something controversial to say? Or James, I mean, he speaks to so many people around the beautiful game. He does come up with some great comments. He has a great article yesterday about the All-Star game that he's a big fan of. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Oh, wait, Ian, let me jump in on that, by the way. James, we came with a new concept of the All-Star. Instead of North v South, how about England versus Europe? You know, England, Brexit, England v Europe, Brexit game. That would be a good one, right?
Well, I mean, it'd be a nice little warm-up for when we win the World Cup, wouldn't it?
Oh,
I
big
like
statement
it.
there.
Like
Americans,
it. What
do you think about that, eh? USA's in England's group for all our American fans. Let's see what you think. Send your comments into James. Let's see what James say. Let's see how James defends himself.
You got to get past the group stage first before we get anywhere. All right, let's get into it, boys. Enough of the banter. There's some cracking games coming up this weekend all across Europe's top 5 leagues. We'll begin with Serie A. And Nigel reo-coker, we're going to begin with your team because AC Milan, without Leão there, you know, obviously got his red card last weekend. I know you were disappointed with the second yellow card he picked up. They're taking on top of the table Napoli. It's a difficult game for them, but clearly you're a big fan of this Napoli side. What do you think will separate the two sides, and who do you think's a favorite going into this one?
I think for me, what will separate the side is the fact for me Napoli looks still better organized defensively. We talked about how strong they are in their starting 11 with everyone being fit. I think that's what I would look at, because I looked at the AC Milan game in the Champions League, and for me, they still look a bit questionably defensively. You know, they do give opponents and teams very good chances, very good looks. And if you look at the attacking finesse, the skill in that attacking sense for Napoli, they're a lot more clinical. And I think if they give this Napoli side some good chances like they did present in the midweek game in the Champions League, Napoli would take them, and it should make a very interesting encounter. But I would say with the confidence that Napoli on right now, the role that they've got going, I think that Napoli will get this win. They'll grind out the result.
Yeah, I mean, just to pick up on what Nigel was saying there, if you go and look at AC Milan's European and Serie A games this season, I think the only time they kept a clean sheet was in that game against Sassuolo. And, you know, watching that Dinamo Zagreb game, I thought was quite instructive of kind of the limitations of Milan, or that the game was there to be killed off, 2-0 up against a pretty ordinary opponent away from home. I mean, that's maybe harsh on Dinamo, but by Milan standards, a pretty ordinary opponent. And they just let them back in. And they've been doing that a lot, did that in the Derby della Madonnina. it's that's a cause for concern, and it's quite strange because you don't normally associate that with the team that's just won the title. Like, they're a bit sloppy, obviously, like by very high standards that they've set, and like Nigel says, Napoli have the players to punish that sloppiness. They can turn, as we saw against Rangers, they can turn turn the game on its head in the space of 10-15 minutes. So that's the challenge for Milan, is can they be a bit more disciplined? In many ways, maybe this game and the recent results mean they rise to the occasion. I think we know that Milan can just quell a game, can get in their possession game and grind things down. As you say, it's a shame that there'll be no Leao for Napoli. A shame there'll be no Osimhen no Leao for Milan and no Osimhen for Napoli. Mm-hmm. But so many talented players across the board that I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, Nigel, obviously Napoli lost some players recently, experienced players, big names, and pretty much players that lived and breathed the football club. And many didn't expect them to have an impact on maybe the title race domestically. But have the big wins over Liverpool in the Champions League and also Glasgow Rangers we just witnessed, has that proven to everybody that they could be a title contender, potentially go and win it this season? Or do you still think they've got to prove it in these big games against your Milans and Romas and Inters and Juves to really show that they are the real deal?
Well, that's what's going to happen here. And, we talk about it sometimes when teams have a blip. And I know one of the teams that you don't really like to discuss is Bayern Munich, when they keep drawing in the Bundesliga. But I always say, when you play these top teams, the bottom teams that you think you'd beat comfortably, they seem to raise their game. And I think with AC Milan, I think even with Napoli, how successful they are, AC Milan are going to raise their game. But I still feel defensively they're questionable. And I feel that Napoli are a lot more better organized. And I feel that they're going to really take their opportunities. And as James said, you got no Osimhen, you got no Leao for AC Milan, two big stars who really have a bit of that X factor for both teams individually. But I'm not going to butcher his name. I'm going to let Mr. Ian Joy, with his great pronunciation, say his name for me. The Napoli, as they call him, the Georgian Messi or the Georgian Maradona.
Kvaratskhelia.
There you go. I don't want to butcher his name, ladies and gentlemen.
Nigel, can I just give you a little bit of help here? A lot of people are calling him Kvaradona.
Kvaradona.
If
Okay.
in doubt.
We can name him Kvaradona, because for me, what I've seen of this young man is fantastic. He really is a talent. Once he cuts in from that left and he can go on the right, he really has an eye for a goal, great dribbling ability, great technical ability. I think he is one of those generation players, and he's going to go on to be a star. I cannot see Napoli holding on to him for very long at all, because he's proven himself, proven his worth. He's the one that's going to really take that spotlight for this game this weekend, and we should be in for a very, very good encounter.
Yeah, Hamza, you're stepping in, James, real quickly.
Can I throw another name into the mix
Go ahead,
terms of summer signings? Because obviously, rightly so, Kvaratskhelia has won all the plaudits. He's player of the month, I think, in Serie A. But, the defenders, and Ian, I'm sure you'll agree with me, the defenders never get the credit they deserve. Kim Min-jae, giant Korean centre-back here, I mean, in many ways, an even tougher task for him, because the sort of truly world-class player that Napoli lost, who was in the peak of his powers, was Kalidou Koulibaly. And Kim Min-jae's phenomenal, really assertive centre-back, brings a lot of the qualities that Koulibaly did. And I think doing that in a new league, when I think he came from Fenerbahce and hasn't really had any experience in the top 5 leagues before. In fact, he's only had 1 year's experience in Europe, 25 years old. He has been really outstanding addition. I mean, if anyone's watching, the people watching our YouTube show will see him there in that team lineup. That's not a guy I want to run into if I'm competing for a 50-50 ball. He looks like he'd go flying off him. And he's been really excellent, and I want to give him some love when we talk about it.
Speak for yourself, James. I have no problem running into him, mate. Speak for yourself.
We know that, Nigel.
No fear.
Listen, they are certainly impressing all of us. And I think defensively, as you mentioned, James, it's been pretty impressive to watch them defend this year. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're leading the way in Serie A with clean sheets, 3 on the campaign so far. And that's one of the reasons why they're sitting at the top of the table. Sure, joint on points, and Milan will look to try and make that leapfrog jump. But before we move on to the next game, James, I want to get your opinion. Olivier Giroud has been in terrific form of late. Recently just called upon by the French national team after missing out in the last games. He scored 48 38 goals in 112 games for his national team. He's 3 behind France's all-time leading goal scorer in Thierry Henry. What do you make of his form right now? I mean, this guy seems to have found a real place where he's finding it and calling it home. He's 35 years old now, but he's playing like he's in his peak right now, his prime.
I think he might be in his prime. I mean, certainly in recent years, I think his game, because it's never been reliant on pace. And it's a lot of it's been about smart movement and knowledge of where defenders will be. And then he has the physical skills and the technical excellence to beat them to the ball. It kind of makes sense that it would only get better. I think he's been fantastic. It would be very strange, wouldn't it, if he, as one former Arsenal striker, overtakes the greatest former Arsenal striker, greatest former Arsenal player. But I think it's obviously, you know, I mean, certainly no one would then suddenly say Giroud was a better player than Henry, but it's credit to his longevity and to how he's done that in a squad as talented as the one Henry was part of. You know, what a golden generation of French footballers. And Deschamps could have been picking Griezmann week in, week out. He could have been picking Mbappe, Ben Yedder, Lacazette, name whoever you want. He kept coming back to Giroud because he's a consummate team player. And I think, in a way, it's great that kind of as he reaches the twilight years of his career, this team player, this guy who brings the best out of those around him, is starting to get the individual accolades. And well done him. And certainly I think he is going to be as much of a test as any forward Napoli have come up against so far this season.
Nigel, what are your thoughts on him? I mean, are you surprised to see him continuing to thrive at this age? I mean, he looks like he is the ultimate professional, clearly looks after himself. I think his finishing this year has been sensational. I know he's not got a ton of goals this year, only the 4 goals from 8 appearances, but these are big goals for Milan, and they need him right now with all of these players who are out missing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think that his ability or his finishing has ever been in doubt or question. I just think for me, it's being in Serie A has been a blessing in disguise for him. It's not as intense as the Premier League. And like you said, Ian, he's finally finding something. He calls himself home. I think he's feeling the love right now. It's a lot more technical and slower paced league than the Premier League. And that's why he's reaping the rewards and he's being so successful in Serie A currently. But he's a player that I feel that brings so many different dynamic depending on how you use him. Yes, he's not youthful, can't run in behind, but his football intelligence speaks for itself, as James just stated there with the runs and the type of runs he makes. What he also does is, if you provide him the service and you've got great quality crosses coming out wide, he is a serious aerial threat. And also being an aerial threat, he can also play that target role to bring teams up higher up the pitch, to hold up the ball. So from a tactical point of view, he brings a lot more that a manager can use depending on the game and how the game is going and depending on the opponents than just going for your typical modern day false number 9 striker that runs in behind, because sometimes you might want to be a bit direct. And that's what the option that Giroud gives you, to be that target man and bring players into play.
You're watching Qué Golazo as we preview the weekend's fixtures coming up all across Europe. We're talking Serie A right now. It's a big game in Serie A. It is Napoli on the road to Milan. It is a big game to see who will pretty much be leading the way in Serie A after this fixture is over, unless it ends up in a draw. What do you think out there if you're watching along? Let us know your feelings, your thoughts on Milan. Are they good enough to win Scudetto yet again? Or are Napoli, after replacing some big players who left the club, defensively solid? James Benge, he thinks they're better defensively this year, and they're certainly proving to be that way. Quick prediction on the game, Nigel Reo-coker, give me a score.
I'm going to go 3-1 Napoli.
James?
I'm not going to do a quick prediction because I need to remind everyone listening and everyone in here that I am 2 ahead of everyone else on our little predictions league for the Champions League. So people that are trying to decide whether to make a bet, who to listen to me. I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, because you've got your lucky blanket on. That's why. Hurry up and make it with your lucky blanket.
I'm going to make a bit of a cop out here and go 1-1.
1-0 would be plus 245 on the draw right there, and there's actually some money to be made for Napoli. I think a draw would probably be a fair result looking at it right now. Injuries to both teams. I'm actually going to go for a Milan win in this game. I think they can get the job done. I think they're going to surprise Napoli this weekend. Napoli's been on such a great run. They've been difficult to score goals against in Europe, been flying high. But I don't know. And all the people out there, even in our comments right now, are mentioning the fact that Napoli do have a deep roster. I just think somehow, even though they don't have Leao, I just think somehow Milan will make this a dirty game and go and pick up all 3 points. So there we have it. That's what we predict for the big one in Italy this weekend. But let's move on to Roma against Atalanta. All right, Roma, only 1 point separates these two sides. Atalanta 2 behind Napoli on goal difference. Roma will sense that this is their chance to mount a challenge for a top 4 place and maybe even push themselves into the top 3. There's no Europe for Atalanta this campaign, James. Do you think that helps them domestically? Because clearly over the years, we've witnessed Atalanta doing damage in Europe, sometimes conceding a ton of goals, not only domestically, but also in Europe. But this year they look focused and they're really putting together a good season.
Yeah, I mean, it always helps, especially at this early stage. Well, I mean, throughout the season, it helps a lot. And I think we've seen with Atalanta that they would be quite fast starters in Serie A. And because they're such a good team, they'd end up going pretty deep in Europe, whether it's the Champions League or on occasion the Europa League. And by the end, because it's not the biggest squad, because they don't have the money to have the biggest squad, you would feel like they were running on empty, kind of coming to the finish line. So I'm really intrigued. I think we all wrote Atalanta off this season, and I think we forget the value of not being in Europe, or particularly, and I think if you flip it around in Roma's case, how much of a slog it is being in Europe when you're playing Europa League or Europa Conference League and you've got that Thursday, Sunday slog. I remember speaking to people at Premier League clubs who play in the Europa League, and they just said, we don't know what it is, but we hate it. Nigel, you did. Was it not so much?
Thanks, James. Yeah, thanks. I know you might have forgotten about it. I know. It
was a while ago. But it's a slog, isn't it? And it's a slog for Roma, who have played quite well, but somehow there's just that sparks missing from them early this season.
It's tough. It really is tough when you play Saturday and Thursday, because obviously then you got to adapt yourself to playing on Sundays to fit in the schedule. And then next thing you know, your week kind of breaks up, and you got to think about a lot of these players are kind of molded into Monday training throughout the week. You play on a Saturday. So when you have to rearrange scheduling and fixtures and stuff, it does become very, very tough, mentally tough. But the difference is, I would say, in this generation of the competition we're seeing big clubs. Mm-hmm. The whole revamp has helped a lot more big clubs be in there, where when I was playing, you're playing clubs in the middle of nowhere. Half these clubs I never heard of, without being disrespectful. And it's only if you made it to the semi-finals or finals, you might get a so-called big name still in there, because that's how serious some of these big clubs were taking it. But now there are some big historic clubs involved in it. The revamp has helped. And I think that, not to get away from it, but when you look at this game, this is a Jose Mourinho game. He loves games like this. He's going to set up Roma to be well organized, hard to beat, hard to break down. They're going to play counter-attacking against this Atalanta side. We've seen Atalanta so much. We know how they play. Very attacking, very open, very expansive. And this is the type of game that suits Jose Mourinho's tactical nous to style. He loves it. We're going to set up. It's going to be a siege. We're going to weather the storm. We're going to frustrate them. Atlanta are going to take greater risks, and we're going to play the counter-attack. And we get that 1 or 2 goals, we're going to close up shop. So I think from a tactical perspective, it's a game that really suits Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in it, Nigel, because Atalanta have only conceded 3 goals this season, which is surprising to me because obviously, as I just mentioned there, we're dealing with European competition over previous years. I've been so impressed with the fact that they love to attack. They play this great, entertaining football going forward, but defensively just so vulnerable, and they conceded a ton of goals across all competitions, and that includes domestic, which is where I feel like they've been most hurt when they're competing in Europe. Maybe you could say they don't have the depth, the quality and depth to be able to compete in multiple tournaments. But watching them this year domestically, they're very impressive. So they're not easy to score goals against this year. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Roma handle it. Before we move on away from Serie A, I want to get your opinion. This is a completely random question, and I know you both will be up for this one. If you look at Roma's trio up top, who I just am in love with what they're doing. Mourinho's done an amazing job to put this together. You have Dybala, Tammy Abraham, and Pellegrini. I mean, that is as scary a front three as you will probably find in Serie A. The question I would throw to you, and I'm going to throw this to all of our viewers out there, and please feel free to let us know in the comments, let us know on social media as well if you'd like to do so. Would you take that front three over what Juventus just had in the Champions League of Vlahovic, Milik, and Kostic, so to say? I think that front three from Roma could compete with anyone. What do you think, James?
It's not even close. They're so much better. I mean, I don't know about you. I know you've got your doubts here, and I'm not entirely sold on Vlahovic. He's good. He's not amazing. He's not the kind of player that he was maybe made out to be. A lot of penalties in that goal return. Someone needs to score them. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting balanced front three. I like Pellegrini, though I haven't seen a huge amount of him. And I mean, Tammy Abraham. I know we've gone to a picture of Dybala, but the quality that we've seen from Abraham at Chelsea when he was given the chance, and now at Roma, he's flourishing as this star in the Eternal City. A wonderful, wonderful player, someone who can do it all. You know, we were talking about Giroud earlier. Sometimes feels like Abraham has got all those Giroud qualities and plenty in his legs, plenty of pace as well. I think he's fantastic. And off the top of my head, I can't think of many front threes in Serie A I like the look of more than Roma's.
How about you, Nigel?
I have to agree with you. I think for me, the main guy for me is Diabla. I think he's been missing so much for Juventus. He really has been.
I'm going to have to correct you because you've said it 3 times now. Dybala.
I said Dybala.
No, you mumbled it. You said blah, 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 blah.
Dybala. Anyway,
Dybala.
He's been the main missing one for me, for Roma. And I think that he has that real individuality, great ability. I think he really has been the missing piece. Sorry, for Juventus. He's now at Roma. He's been the missing one for Juventus. The main player that they're really missing. And I'd have to agree with James. I think that front three at Roma right now is so good. You know, Tammy I know well because of connections from being a South London boy. I've spoken to him a few times when he's a time at Chelsea. And I give him credit. He's left Chelsea, where a lot of young players who come through that academy don't want to do because of obviously Chelsea and the club that they are. But he's gone out there. He's applied. He's changed. He's trade in Serie A, and he's flourishing. He's doing so well.
Nigel, why is that though? I love that you say that, and I love that obviously you have this direct contact with him. But through your experience and the people that you know, and obviously knowing Tammy very well, and I can only look at the statistics and how happy Tammy is. If you look at his stats from what he did at Chelsea, he scored 30 goals in 82 appearances, and for Roma, he's at 29 goals already from only 59 appearances. So why is it that he's having more success? Is he just enjoying his football much more there, or like you say, is it easier to score goals in Serie A?
I think he's enjoying his football a lot more there. And I also think the management plays a part. I think that Jose Mourinho knows how to manage him. I think Jose Mourinho knows when to put his arm around him or knows when to guide him. And if you look at it from a certain point of view, he reminds me of Drogba in the sense of when Jose Mourinho was very successful at Chelsea for that style of striker, what he brings in Jose Mourinho's system. And I think him going to Italy, Jose's tried to mold him in that Drogba kind of role. He's embraced it. And a lot of the young players don't want to leave some of these big clubs like Chelsea, like Man City, because it's the glam that comes with playing at these clubs. They're very reluctant to leave. They think to themselves, if I leave Chelsea, where am I going to go? Instead of thinking about the importance of getting game time. Game time is what matters. And right now, the more games he's playing at Roma, the more goals he scores, the more he's going to be that striker in demand later on in his career. It's only going to benefit for him, because if he was at Chelsea right now, we wouldn't say that he'll be playing or starting week in, week out. Even if he was at Chelsea, I'll definitely play him ahead of Aubameyang, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far of him. So sometimes, you know, Ian, there's that reluctance to leave. And I think sometimes it's because some of these young players don't get the right advice to understand that your value goes up the more games you play than just being at Chelsea in a glamorous club without playing football games.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're keeping the chat incredibly long here talking about Serie A because there's just so many big games going on all across Europe this weekend. Please make sure you join us in the chat. Let us know your feelings. Who do you think is going to win this game? It's a massive game. It's 5th against 2nd. It's Roma against Atalanta. James Bench, who you got? Give me a quick prediction.
Roma 2-1.
Nigel?
Roma 3-2.
Roma 3-2. Both of you going for Roma. I think this one is going to be a Roma victory as well. I'm going for a 3-1 victory. I think Atalanta do concede a goal, although it might be all goals in the second half. You can see it would be in a cagey affair in the first 45 minutes. All right, that's it for Serie A. Let's move on to La Liga. There is obviously only one game to really talk about. We could talk about all of them if we really wanted to, but we got to touch upon the derby game that's coming up here. It's a cracking match to look forward to. Atletico just lost to Leverkusen in the Champions League by 2-0. Real Madrid just beat Leipzig by 2-0, although they left it late. It was an entertaining game to look forward to. We certainly weren't disappointed. No Karim Benzema. But this is a game that you would expect to see a reaction from Atleti. They're at home against Real Madrid. It is a derby game. James Bench, tough one to predict here and a tough one for Real Madrid.
Is it a tough one to predict? I kind of feel like Madrid are just rolling and are so convincing, Real Madrid that is, that actually, I know Atletico have had good moments, a great result against Celta Vigo, but it's sort of, for me, it kind of sums everything up about Atletico and where they've got in the last few years, that their best player, arguably, and I'm open to being told I'm wrong here, but their best player can't come on the pitch till the 60th minute in Antoine Griezmann. And I mean, you know, not again, I will say this again whenever I'm on with you guys. I've not played the game at a professional level, but generally my experience would be that if you're playing in a professional football team, you should play your best footballers. That's just, you know, if I were a manager, that would be one of the things I'd do. It's radical. I know Diego Simeone clearly doesn't agree with me. Of course, there are financial reasons why Griezmann has to stay on the bench. But I kind of think that sort of sums it all up. And, you know, I saw the highlights of the Leverkusen game. They just didn't really look like laying a glove on. It didn't really look like laying a glove on a pretty ordinary Leverkusen team. They just are a bit underwhelming. And right now, Madrid are on a roll, and I think this is actually should be a game they win quite convincingly.
Nige, just before you jump in here, does it make a difference that Atleti lost that last game in Europe and they don't want to lose 2 games in a row, or the fact that this is a derby game and they absolutely don't want to lose? I mean, let's face it, Real Madrid are not the same without Karim Benzema. There is something big missing there, a big piece of the puzzle. So will they try to maybe keep it tight, make it frustrating, make it ugly, sneak a victory with the last 20, 30 minutes with the super sub who they're sneaking on the pitch for 20 minutes, try and win the game?
It's Atletico Madrid. It's a Diego Simeone side. They're definitely going to make it ugly. I think that regardless of any results both of these sides had, derby games, you either get this. You either get a very good game or a very poor game. You're not going to get no in between. And I think with how things are right now of Atletico Madrid, especially their last result, they're going to make this as ugly as possible. My thing is now is whether Real Madrid have the character, the mental strength in the team to be able to get through this battle, keep the game tight, and they've got the quality in the attacking sense. They've got more superstars who can put the ball into the back of the net than Atletico Madrid. So it's really how long can Atletico Madrid keep them out? But it's definitely going to be a game where Simeone is going to want to make it very physical, very ugly, and it's a derby. You know, it can go either way. But if you're asking me, Ian, I think for me, Real Madrid have the edge because I look at the experience in what we've seen so far in their Champions League games. They haven't been great. They haven't been fantastic. They've had their backs against the wall in most of their games, but yet they still found a way to get the results. That's where the confidence comes from, and that's what I see from their attacking sense as well. And I feel that they've just got more attacking threat, more players who can come off the bench to really impact the game in the attacking end. And I feel they're decent defensively. So I can see Real Madrid edging this again.
Well, Matt Osman just saying that Real Madrid are winning this one all day, every day. James Bench, Real Madrid have won every single game this season across all competitions. They've been very difficult to stop scoring goals. And even without Karim Benzema, last weekend, they were terrific against Mallorca. The youngsters are stepping up. Vinicius Jr. looks like he's grabbing this club and he is pushing this club forward. How do you stop them?
I don't know, because you know what's really intriguing me? This blend of proper, like, dyed-in-the-wool experience vets who know this game and are clearly imparting all the right habits onto your Vinicius Juniors, your Rodrigo, who started making these telling contributions and is being trusted with sort of leading the line in Benzema's absence. That to me is a worrying mix. How you stop them? I mean, a lot of other people have struggled.
Smash them, break their legs. That's what you want to say, Jim, but you can't really say it.
You're going to need this to be...
Isn't Simeone the guy to do that? That's what I'm trying to get at. Isn't this going to be the case, James, where Simeone says, you know what, F this, I'm going to start smashing people. We're going to play really difficult. We're going to play dirty, and that's how we're going to win and get back in the title race.
That worked really well. It was in that lockdown season, the Madrid derby, and Madrid were coming into it flying. Obviously, there were no fans. That will be a bonus for Atletico. But Atletico just turned it into a street fight, into a brawl. maybe metaphorical. I can't remember if it was literal as well. Wouldn't rule anything out with Simeone's teams. That's what you do, isn't it? You make them play your game because there is going to be no one better. I know it's not the same Atleti of 5-6 years ago, but there is still that fighting spirit that they have. I think especially when they come up against Real Madrid, the aristocratic team, the team of, the Prado and the team of the richer side of Madrid. I think that's what you do. You get the fans on your side. You turn this into, I'm talking myself into Atletico Madrid winning it. And then I just think, yeah, but Real Madrid have got Vinicius and Luka.
Yeah, but no.
Ian, it sounded like he was kind of in a certain way describing Arsenal, like when Arsenal played Tottenham. The aristocrats, Arsenal fans. The private educated schoolboys and all that.
What do you think I'm an Arsenal fan?
There we go. Anyway,
all right. Well, let's get your predictions before we move on. This is a tough one to predict, and I'm actually going to predict Atletico Madrid make this ugly, and Atletico Madrid sneak a 1-0 victory. Guess who scores?
Wow.
James Bench. Guess who scores? James Bench. Antoine Griezmann comes off the bench and scores the winner. I'm predicting it's a tight one. What are you going for, James?
2-0 to Real Madrid. I still think it will be a bit tight, but quality pays, isn't it?
Nigel.
I am going to go for a 2-0 to Real Madrid as well. I think it's going to be tight, but I just feel that attacking sense, and we described it as well. Vinicius Jr., superstar, loving the spotlight, and he's not scared of that spotlight being on him. This is one of the games where he's going to really want to shine.
Well, what do you think out there if you're watching Qué Golazo? Is it going to be Real Madrid who takes glory in the Madrid derby, or will it be Atleti, who are 5 points behind in the Liga standings right now? Let us know your thoughts in the comments before we go. But of course, we're going to take a quick break right now. We've got a lot to talk about when we return. We're going to have a look at the Premier League, which returns after a postponed weekend last weekend. And of course, there's a couple of big games in the Bundesliga and one cracker to look forward to in France. Stay right there. We'll be right back.
The UEFA Champions League. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath exhilaration. While Mbappe shines in the city of lights, Benzema's racking up the hat tricks, and the Reds want Mo Magic in Liverpool. This ain't amateur hour. This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live on Paramount+.
Well, while we're having technical difficulties, James,
let's chat over him.
Let's chat over Ian. Yeah, it's you know what? I just don't think. I think Ian talks too much. That's why his mic's gone. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, make sure
you know. I'm back. Don't worry about it.
Damn, I just missed my moment, James.
Do you know what happens? Do you know what happens? It's when our producer Des, he puts us on mute. He never takes me off mute because he gets fed up of listening to me talking.
Not alone.
All right, I'm going to remind you.
How about James? How about our producer wanting James to step in and not me? He doesn't think of I have the capability to host a show. Thanks, Des. All right.
Well, Des was saying the other week what a natural host I am, Ian. I'm coming for your job. We just
realized Des is an Atletico Madrid fan, and we've all absolutely just crapped on his team. That's why. Carry on, Ian. Let's go.
All right. I'm going to start off again because technical difficulties once again. Our producer Des Norris. Let's move on. CBS Sports is your home for the 2022-23 UEFA Champions League, UEFA Europa League, and UEFA Conference League group stages with Paramount Plus streaming every match live. And to complement the best club competitions in the world, Paramount Plus also boasts a wealth of premium soccer documentaries, including Destination Paris, which follows journalist Guillaume Balaguer's path through Europe for the 21-22 UEFA Champions League season, culminating with the final in Paris. Balaguer's travels detail Ukrainian club Shakhtar Donetsk's experiences amid ongoing war. Please check out Destination Paris and the entire Champions League season on Paramount Plus. Every single time I hear that, I always get excited. Welcome back, everyone, to Qué Golazo. Ian Joy with James Benj and Nigel reo-coker with you. Now that the technical difficulties are past us, you can finally hear me. Let's get stuck into some Premier League action as it returns following the postponed weekend's fixtures of last weekend following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Let's discuss a couple of the big games. We'll start off with Spurs against Leicester City. Spurs, because I'm getting the feeling that the postponed game has given them time, obviously, to enjoy European success. Didn't quite happen for them. But for Leicester City, maybe it's postponed them from having to actually fire their coach. This is a cracking game to look forward to, Nigel. Who you got in this one?
You'd have to say Spurs. I still think that Spurs haven't really hit top gear yet, because the thing is they haven't been performing well, but they've been getting the results. Apart from obviously the Sporting tie in the Champions League where they crumbled in the last minute, and I'm sure Antonio Conte would not be happy with that. But again, we haven't seen the full best of Spurs yet, and I still think it's gonna come. It's just a matter of time. Leicester right now, for me, I think there's a lot going on in that club. You know, obviously there's been a lot of links with some of their top players. Some have left, some haven't left. It's really made an uncomfortable dressing room. As much as they're trying to put it out there, we're still together, we're still united. I still feel there's a lot of inside turmoil at that club currently. And Brendan Rodgers, for me, seems like a manager that's kind of comfortable that if he loses his job, he's okay with it, because he's made some comments about not being backed. And whenever managers do that, saying that they haven't been backed in financially to bring recruits in and this and that, it's not a good sign, because up top, directors of football and chairmen, they don't like that, because that already puts the magnifying glass on their position of manager wanting to buy players, wanting to have new additions. But obviously you guys are not backing me, even though we know there's a lot going on with the financial fair play. But I think that Spurs will edge this one, and I just think the turmoil will continue at Leicester.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really quite worried about Leicester, because I mean, I think they can, if they turn it around quickly, they could be a good Premier League team and could be fine, because they have technically excellent players who can achieve a lot. But the worry would be, this is not a team that's been designed and built to scrap against relegation. And I think you've got a team with a lot of technical wingers, a lot of midfielders who like to have their foot on the ball and dominate possession, whether that's a Tielemans or a Dewsbury Hall. And I worry if this is a squad, just from seeing them play, that has kind of the stomach for what could be a really scrappy season. And I think that's, kind of what Nigel was getting at about Brendan Rodgers as well. I mean, he doesn't want to be involved in a load of relegation 6-pointers. I don't think he's a good manager for that sort of environment. So it feels like if they can't turn it round quickly, if they can't get out of the mire, I think they're in a position where it becomes a lot harder. They become, one of those teams that is quote unquote too good to go down. They might be, they might not be. I actually don't think we should be ruling that out anymore. The defence looks like its best days have been and gone. And that's a worry then when you've got a midfield that's all about elegant play and possession, and maybe isn't that, it just isn't kind of going anywhere defensively. And indeed, he's kind of fallen off the cliff. The wingers have not been great except Harvey Barnes. And I hate to say it, because whenever you discount Jamie Vardy, he goes on a scoring run. But it's been a while since Jamie Vardy's got on a scoring run.
Yeah, it's a great point. And let's not forget, only 1 point from the 6 games played so far. And defensively, James, to back you up, they've conceded 16 goals in that time, which is not good at all for Leicester, going up against Spurs, who are third in the table right now. Obviously still undefeated, and coming off the back of that tough loss in the Champions League. I mean, it was a difficult game for Tottenham in the Champions League against Sporting Lisbon. Are we going to see some sort of rotation from the Spurs side here? Because I was a little bit surprised that Heung-min Son is in the starting lineup against Sporting Lisbon, and yet again, no goal from him. Nigel, do you think we'll see that rotation?
I think it'll be uncalled for. I think Heung-min Son's a fantastic player. I think that it's that kind of football and fan mentality. Oh, he's not scoring, we've got to take him out. You don't become a bad player overnight. Let him play back into confidence. I think he brings so much to the team. And even if he's not scoring, he's such a player that gravitates that extra attention to, because he's very dangerous. So you do have to sometimes double up on him. You know what he's capable of. He may not be scoring, but just his presence on the pitch, the run and the threat that he has may create other space and opportunity for other players in the team. So I feel that that's what Antonio Conte is still kind of going on at. And I think that he's right in his approach. And I just think we need to give him a bit of time. Like, we can't be kind of that idiot of the village who's, he's not scoring goals, or he's not good anymore, he's poor. Like, I don't believe in that. I just think he's going through a difficult time, and I think he'll come out of it.
Best season so far for chances created as well. He's not scoring, but he's helping others score.
Yeah,
There you
0
go.
goals though, James. 0 goals, only the 1 assist through the 8 games, all competitions that he's played in. I think, unfortunately for him, his statistics that blew everybody away with his performances, including last season and the season before, is probably why people are critical of him right now. But what do you think out there? Thanks again for tuning in to Qué Golazo, but we want to know your opinion as well. Don't just sit back, relax, and enjoy your cup of tea while you're watching this one. Let us know in the comments. Do you think there's something wrong with Heung-min Son? Should he be dropped from Conte's side? Let us know what you think as well, because your opinion matters to us most. We move on to Wolves against Manchester City. Favourites to win the Premier League and probably favourites to win the Champions League as well, Manchester City. They are on the road. They take on a Wolves side. Manchester City are favourites. Let's not even doubt that. The bookie said so. They're playing against the Wolves side who are 14th in the table with only 1 win, but I guess my question to both of you would be the rotation question again. Erling Haaland, do you play him in this game? Or is this one that you don't play him in and give him a bit of a rest and maybe you run Alvarez out? James, where are you going on this one?
I hadn't really thought of that. It's not the worst backup option in the world. I thought Alvarez was great last time I saw him in the Premier League. Was it against Brighton, I want to say, where he scored 1 and kind of played in that front two. I mean, City should, in theory, be able to do what they want, and whichever 11 players Guardiola kind of opts for, you back them to win. I've got to the stage where I think they've been so good early this season that when you're sort of looking at their fixture list, you go, well, what's the sort of totally random game where for some reason they'll just go, no, we're not feeling it this week, and they'll somehow drop 2 or 3 points. I don't know why, but I just quite like the idea of Diego Costa announcing his return to the Premier League by messing everything up. You can definitely see him scoring 1 as Wolves somehow cling on for a 1-0 win.
Either that or getting sent off, James.
Or getting sent off. But if he scores, I have to say, if he scores 1, he scored like 1 or 2 in his first few games, and then we won't hear from him until March or whatever. It feels, but this is just madness.
You're 100% right, and I'm with you. If there's any game where you could say potentially this could be a game where City don't turn up, it's this game. And like you said, it's just written that Diego Costa is going to play a big part in this game. We've already seen when Man City come up against big, strong, target men kind of centre forwards with a bit of ability, that back four struggles against these type of players. And Diego Costa is that type of player, but he's also that type of character. He is going to be annoying to that City back two, and he's going to be a problem. And I just feel that this could be that game. Again, Ian made a great point. Can they do the rotation? Maybe rest Haaland. You don't want to have that over-reliance on him for the Premier League and also the Champions League. And we all know the priority for Manchester City is the Champions League. That is what they predominantly want, more so than another Premier League title. Maybe it might be wrong. Let's hear for some City fans. But I feel that this could be that game. And I think this could be the game that Wolves get their first win of the season. I just have something in me is telling me that I'm going to go with Wolves.
Plus 850 for Wolves to pick up the victory on the bookies money line right there. Wolves will find this one difficult, but of course they got to kickstart their season at some point. James, tough game for Bruno Lage here. Who are you going with? And give me a score prediction.
I don't know what. I just, when I'm talking it through with Nigel, it just feels like the right thing to say. It's either 4-0 Man City, isn't it? Or 1-0 Wolves. And sometimes the heart wants what it wants. So I'm going to just jump above the parapet and say, like Nigel, Wolves are going to win this.
2-1 Wolves. 2-1 Wolves with Diego Costa scoring. That's what I'm going with. I'm telling you.
I just don't see it, boys. I'm sorry. I've got to go with Manchester City. I'd love to see Erling Haaland play this game. I think he's going to get rested. Alvarez is going to play. And this kid, Alvarez, has been so impressive to me. He can play out wide. He can play as a striker. The guy's, he's deadly.
Let me jump in on that, Ian. Go. The kid is an absolute pest. I remember watching him for River Plate and covering him when they were getting in the quarters and semis of the Libertadores. That kid is an absolute pest. And on his day, he's not a bad finisher. He's not the finished article. He still has some stuff to work, but what he does work rate wise and what he brings to a team, oh my God, he's an absolute pest. And there's a big contrasting difference between him and Haaland. Haaland kind of more so times his runs well, knows to run in behind, knows where to be in the box. But Alvarez really helps the team from a defensive standpoint, doesn't let opposing defenders have a moment of rest. And he can also score goals, bags of energy, and he could be a problem.
Nigel, Media Centre Man says there's absolutely no way that Wolves get any kind of result. It will be a cricket score for Manchester City.
Hold on, let me just say, Media Centre Man, just remember when Leicester City won the Premier League, where there was no way they should have won the Premier League. That is the beauty of football, why we love the game so much. Anything is possible.
He also just said that, Nigel Reo-coker, you are a West Ham legend. So clearly,
that's a fantastic comment, Media Centre Man. I like that.
That's to change the prediction now.
Now is Nigel Reo-coker's favourite friend. All right, let's just remind the lot of you that there are some games postponed this weekend in the Premier League. So please make sure you pick your fantasy teams accordingly. I'm going to run through some of the results and some of the fixtures, And remember, some of the postponed games are Brighton and Hove Albion, Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, Leeds United, all postponed. The games that do go ahead on Friday, Aston Villa, Southampton, Nottingham Forest, Fulham. Two big ones right there. Looking forward to seeing Forest versus Fulham. Wolves against Manchester City, Newcastle United against Bournemouth, and Spurs Leicester City, as we just broke down. And then on Sunday, this is a cracker. James Benj, I think you might be attending this one. Brentford against Arsenal, and Everton against Nigel Reo-coker's West Ham United on Sunday. So a lot to look forward to, but make sure you pick your fantasy team accordingly, because there are some fixtures that are postponed. All right, let's move on to elsewhere in Europe. There's a lot to get through before we end the show, and if you are watching it, as you enjoy Nigel Reo-coker and James Benj with you, let us know your thoughts, your comments. Have we been crazy wrong here with Nigel Reo-coker and James Benj prediction that Wolves will get a result against Manchester City? Or do you agree with me that Manchester City will bang in another 3 or 4 goals? Let's move on to what's happening in League. Lyon against Paris Saint-Germain is an absolute cracker. It's first place PSG, who travel to Lyon on Sunday. PSG off the back of that good result, probably a better second half performance with the big 3 scoring goals at the weekend. Absolutely fantastic. But let's discuss what PSG are right now. They are going up against the Lyon side, who are difficult to score goals against. But I'm also want to point out that Neymar is scoring goals once again for PSG. Neymar scoring goals is a good thing for Paris Saint-Germain. And where do you kind of fall in this one, James? Do you think PSG too strong for Lyon?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Lyon lost to Monaco, didn't they? And I think they lost to Lorient as well. They seem like a team that's really missing the likes of, I mean, as ever, every start of every season, they're missing someone. Paqueta this season in particular. Neymar is obviously just sort of woken up because the World Cup is on the horizon. It feels like he finally has something that he can be interested in playing for. It's fantastic to see him playing that well. I guess these are sometimes the sort of games that PSG wobble in a little bit, and you know, I mean, a point away to Lyon is no shame. They're playing really well, but as we saw in midweek, like they can sometimes just get a bit bored. If they don't wrap this one up quickly, I think Lyon have got a bit of a puncher's chance. But you know, if the mood strikes that front three, then you know, hold on to your horses. It could be a tough night for Lyon.
Hey, Nigel, before I let you jump in here, Neymar scored 11 goals, 7 assists, all competitions, leading the way, if I'm not mistaken, in Ligue 1 in France with 8 goals. He seems to have picked it up yet again. Do you think it's because of a World Cup here? I mean, it just seems to be that every time the World Cup comes around, Neymar starts to see life again. He starts to produce every single game. He looks well and truly up for it, and no longer is out injured.
Well, from what we heard, wasn't it the new director of football at Paris Saint-Germain played a big part? And I think him sitting these players together to really get them together and have an understanding and stop this whole diva mentality, I think that's probably played the biggest part. I think Neymar is playing fantastically well. I don't really think it's anything to do with the World Cup. I think it's all the kind of Hollywood drama that was happening behind closed doors of, you know, all those players trying to be the head guy in charge. I think that's been put aside for the greater good of success together. When they come together, they are frightening. I think we saw glimpses of it in their Champions League game against Juventus, when they really do play together and collaborate and don't try and outdo each other. It's fantastic. I think for me, I'm getting bored. I don't want to talk about Paris Saint-Germain until the knockout stage of the Champions League, because they've got too much of a great array of superstars where if they want to turn it on and play together, there'll be a problem for any club in world football. It's just that simple.
One of the beauties of the game right now is social media and some videos that get shared after games, either in domestic leagues or in the Champions League. Did either of you catch the video of the ball boys or the mascots ahead of the game in Israel against Maccabi Haifa, when everybody saw Messi and they completely just forgot every other PSG player and went and hugged Messi? Did you see that, James?
I didn't see that, but what I would say is, as you would, this is the greatest footballer of all time, and like, if I were
debatable, James, debatable.
Sorry?
Debatable.
Well, I'm not. We'll have that. Definitely, there's a podcast in that debate at some stage. But look, if he were in the mix zone and I was thinking there, I think I would probably lose my self-control and want to at least get a selfie with him.
Please don't tell me you'll take off your blanket. Oh my God.
I thought it was wonderful. So if you're out there, make sure you find that video, that clip on online. It's absolutely brilliant. Quick prediction on that game. Obviously, I think you're both favouring PSG. James?
Yeah, 3-1 PSG.
Nigel?
2-0 PSG.
All right, let's move on to the Bundesliga. I'm going for our Paris Saint-Germain win as well. There are some cracking games to look forward to in the Bundesliga. Gladbach and Leipzig. It's a good game to watch for sure. Marco Rose returning with Leipzig to Borussia Mönchengladbach, a club he coached previously before he moved on Borussia Dortmund and then get fired. So he goes back there after defeat against Real Madrid, but also a big win in the Bundesliga against Borussia Dortmund. Not going to ask for much of a comment because I want to talk a little bit more about Borussia Dortmund Schalke in just a second, but what do you think is a prediction here, James, for Gladbach and Leipzig? Both kind of mid-table right now in the Bundesliga. Where do you see this game going? And give me a prediction.
I mean, I can't say I'm an expert on where Gladbach are. So if in doubt, let's just go for, that new manager or the ex coming back into town, revenge tour mentality. Let's say Leipzig win this 2-1.
Nigel.
I'm going to go with Leipzig as well. I saw Gladbach last week against Freiburg. And I must say they're okay. They struggle to put the ball into the back of the net. I think that new manager era is still in Leipzig at the moment. I think that aura is still about the place. Players feel rejuvenated, and I think that Leipzig should win this because it takes a lot of opportunities for Gladbach to put the ball into the back of the net, and that's what's going to be their problem.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also would like to say that I've got Gladbach to be maybe one of the surprise packages in the Bundesliga this year to maybe sneak into a European place. So these are the type of games that I would expect Gladbach to really step it up. And I'm intrigued to see where Leipzig are after their defeat, of course, in Europe against Real Madrid, but also terrific win. I'm actually intrigued to see what this game goes. The big one, of course, in Germany this weekend is the Riviera Derby. It's Borussia Dortmund against Schalke. This should be an absolute cracker. Schalke only one win and 3 draws this campaign. Borussia Dortmund's favourites in this one. James Benj, where are you going?
That one win was last time out, wasn't it? Probably still go. No, let's say a draw, 1-1. It's been a while, hasn't it, since we've had a Riviera Derby? So Schalke will be very up for it.
Right, listen, I think for Dortmund, there is a lot of positives. You look at their performance against Manchester City. They did well, hung in there against so-called the best club in the world right now in world football, favourites for the Champions League. And the only way they lost that goal was 2 spectacular goals. I mean, the first one, you could probably blame the goalkeeper because he kind of takes his hand away from the ball thinking it's going over. Yep. But then Haaland's goal, what really can you do about that? Anyone else, any player else in the world football, that ball will just sail over in the back post. So I think they can still take a lot of positives, and I think that they will get the win against Schalke because it's not a game they should be too down about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. Obviously, being a Bundesliga fan myself, it's always the derby matches and bringing the fans together. I'm happy for Schalke being back in the Bundesliga, but this one in the Riviera Derby, I think is going to be a step too far for them. And I expect to see a big reaction from Borussia Dortmund after disappointment in Bundesliga last week against Leipzig, and then also disappointment late against Manchester City in the Champions League. I want to see a big performance and a big result. Nice to see Gio Reyna back as well. Final thoughts before we go. Nigel, I know your battery's about to die, but I want to get your opinion on some of the football kits that have been released for the World Cup coming up before you die. And
Ian, why are you going to expose me like that? Come on, man. We're trying to be professional. Why are you going to expose me like that?
We don't hide on this show. We don't hide. We say it as it is. Before you go, Nigel, before you go, let us know your thoughts on the England kit that was just released for the World Cup, or it's about to be released.
Well, the first one is, same old kind of same old. The away one reminds me of a bit of the dark ages of English football, and let's just say a reputation that we want to kind of get rid of now. And all Phil Foden is missing there is a bowling hat there, a bowl hat as they call it. Was it bowl hat or bowling hat?
Bowler hat.
Bowler hat. That's all he's missing right there.
Not a bowler
hat. The Oasis vibe. Nolan, Liam Gallagher would love that there. I prefer the away kit more so than the home kit because it's a bit, could be a bit more adventurous, England.
James?
Yeah, it's just, they're really quite, like all of the Nike kits that we're going to go through. It's like, they tried to do something brave and just kind of carried it out at the last minute, and it's and also there's too much blue on that England kit. Blue is kind of, I know that England shorts are often blue, but it's not an England colour.
James, just say what I said. The kits are like, yeah. That's the word. That's the best.
Some of the other ones are actually really bad, so could be worse. Could have the Portugal kit.
Producer Des, can you please pull up the US kit that was just released? And on social media, fans of US soccer are going absolutely nuts. They absolutely hate the kit. I am actually a fan of both US kits going into this World Cup, obviously in the same group as England, so we're going to get to see them.
That blue one will look really nice when Bukayo Saka's scoring England's 6th goal. You can just see the crestfallen looks of the US defense as England are running riot on Thanksgiving, or is it It's Black Friday, isn't it?
There's a look at the kit right there, the home kit, so to say, the white one with the badge right in the middle. The away kit's very similar. You can see the women's kit's been released as well with the obviously the FIFA World Cup badge next to it.
Apparently the home one is inspired by NFL jerseys, which makes me think, was Todd Bowley designing it?
He probably did. I just want to say, Ian, I want to add to the fact of I love the stars on the women kit. I just wanted to see where. Oh, there isn't none on the men's kit, right? Yeah, the stars on the women's kit is fantastic.
There might be after this World Cup. Just letting you know that.
All right. Yeah. All right.
Well, there's a look at some of the kits. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on some of the World Cup kits that have been released or about to be released or have been leaked out there on the internet, on social media. It's been sensational watching the chat, but it's also been great to have your conversation with us on Qué Golazo. So make sure you leave a comment, like and subscribe to our YouTube page. We appreciate everything you're doing to help this channel grow. We're here for your benefit. We're trying to make our show as best as we possibly can. We got a lot of great ideas coming your way soon. We've obviously brought Nigel reo-coker into the fold, which has been very explosive. My social media timeline was incredibly explosive towards Nigel reo-coker's direction today. He's not on Twitter. However, a lot of people
on Twitter. I've got more sense than being on Twitter. That's why.
Write him a letter if you're not unhappy.
Yeah, write a letter, post it. I'm old school.
We can't thank you all enough for joining us and for making sure that you leave the comments and subscribe into the YouTube channel, because that's what helps us grow. It matters to us. It means more than you'll ever know. But the comments and your opinion matters to us as well. And of course, please make sure that you go and follow what James Bench is doing. He is one of the best writers you will find out there on cbssports.com. And make sure you follow him across all of his social media platforms. James, where are you going this weekend? Which game are you catching?
Plan is Brentford Arsenal. I was planning on doing Liverpool Chelsea, so a bit of a shame that's off. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see if, I think it's a big one for Arsenal to show they're over what happened last year when they got absolutely bullied off the pitch. So a chance for Arsenal, and to end this part of the season top of the table wouldn't be too bad, but it's going to be tough.
Nigel, except for smoking a cigar and chilling out in the sunshine of Florida, what will you be doing this weekend? Which game have you got your eye on most?
Watching football. Yeah, I'm watching all across all boards. Going to try and watch as much football as I can. Loving what I'm seeing. Loving everything. Again, I think I'm probably going to be intrigued again just because I like characters in the game. So I think I'm probably going to spend a lot more time to watching this Man City game v Wolves, because I think that Diego Costa, players like him, make football so much more entertaining. I love it when you have characters like that who leave their ability and their personality on the football pitch. I want to see more characters in the game. It gives us more to talk about, and I think it's great for the game of football. And just to add, Ian, it's only going to get better what we're doing here.
Love it, mate. Love it. Nigel reo-coker, James Ben, Jamie, enjoy. Thanks so much to every one of you out there for listening to Qué Golazo. Please take a minute to leave us a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. We're also available in video format. Subscribe to us on YouTube and visit YouTube. Thanks so much to everybody out there who's been watching us. We'll go live as many times as we possibly can. We're going to have as many guests as we possibly can, as well as the usual suspects. But make sure you all enjoy your football this weekend, and we'll see you again very, very soon.